Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Fleming, and I'm a member of the sales team at Enhance. First of all, thank you for joining our Business Central update and new features webinar. It's one of a series of webinars that we're running throughout the year, really, every month. And then we're covering a variety of subjects. Today, obviously, we're talking about Business Central, but we've also got sessions on Dynamics GP, D365 sales, which when I was lab used to call CRM, and also some less application specific subjects like business continuity and disaster recovery, which are services we also provide. Our objective is obviously just to try and keep everybody informed about what's happening with your products and services at a time when communication is often difficult. I will return to the webinars that we've got coming up towards the end. But for further information on any of the webinars, you can check out our website and our events page. But as I say, I'll cover them again at the end. I'm just about to hand over to my colleague David Butcher, who's going to take us through the session today, which should last somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour. But just before we get into that, could you take us to the next slide, please, David? Thank you. Just wanted to do some quick housekeeping. The session is being recorded and we will share that with you guys after the event is complete. You are on mute currently because obviously we've got, I think, 15 people on the call today who might all have 15 questions all at the same time. So it just makes a lot of sense to actually mute the lines at the moment. However, we are also conscious that you want to ask questions. So in the right-hand panel, it's on the right-hand side of my screen, you have questions. Please pop them in there, send them through. I will be keeping an eye on those as we go along. And I think David's going to grant us a few minutes at the end of each session. And as long as not too many questions come in, we'll try and deal with them as they arise. So yeah, feel free to post your questions into the question box. And finally, it's important that we understand that the sessions have been of value. It's important that we understand what you guys want to see in future. So we will be running a survey at the end of the session. Please fill it in for us because it will help us do a better job for yourselves in the future. I think that's me, David.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So today's session is on what's new in Wave 1, or the first half year of 2021 release of Business Central. So for anyone who's relatively new to software as a service, you get your updates pushed out to you with notifications saying we're going to be updating your system on this date. There's kind of a link in there to show you what you're going to get. But if you don't go and look at that, you switch off one day, you switch on the next day, and you're on a new system. Without possibly paying any attention to what's changed or what new features are available to you. So we've picked out not every feature because some of them just aren't very interesting to talk about. They're just kind of background stuff or processing or things like that. We've picked out some of the ones that we think are going to be relevant to people and things that people are going to want to pick up on and make use of. So the ones that we're going to have a look at today is some of the new email functionality that they've included. The ability to correct dimensions on postings. Something called the allowed dimension values, which allows you to specify what dimensions can be used in different circumstances. The Business Central app for Microsoft Teams. The improvements to bank reconciliation. The ability to copy posted journal lines and copy journals. They're kind of two new things, and I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail down the road. Background posting and using recurring journals to allocate balances by dimension. So they're the topics that we're going to hit on. I'm going to take them on one at a time. Most of them are going to have a lot of demonstration. And then as we've taken each topic, I'll just pause for a second. Matt will let me know if there's been any questions. He's monitoring those for me. I'll answer any questions if there's if any come up, or if there's not too many, I might postpone them. Sorry, if there are too many, I might postpone them to outside of the session so that we don't overrun. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the new email functionality. So this actually isn't new to many systems, but it's new to Business Central. So we're putting it out, and it's just the ability to email and manage your emails within Business Central itself. So you don't have to take something like a sales order or a purchase order or an invoice and save that out of the system, open your email application, and send that on. You can monitor all of those emails and things and compose and use templates within Business Central itself. You can also use profiles that you have access to. So for example, if you're sending your emails from a group email account, such as accounts@yourorganization.com, so that you want people to reply to that so that the replies don't come to you as an individual, they come to your team. You can set those up and manage that automatically. Any invoices, any remittance advices, any orders, they all go out via the addresses that you've assigned to them. So I'm going to pop into into BC and just show you those. So I'm just going to jump into a posted sales transaction. And choose the print and send. So from here, you see it's opened up an email. It's automatically attached the sales invoice as a PDF. It's used a template that I've got assigned as being the template that I want to use for it when I send invoices, which is completely editable. So I can say, hi, Susan. And you can edit that, do whatever it is that you need to do, and then send that out. So that's available anywhere you've got documents within the system. So that's available on invoices, orders, quotes on the sales side, purchase orders, remittance advices, statements, etc., etc. I'm going to miss some. I haven't got them all listed out in front of me, but anywhere where there is a sendable document from within the system, you have that email functionality. If I just jump back to my homepage for a second and have a look at the email accounts. So at the minute, I've got my email set up in the system, me and my current user, but I can go ahead and I can set up a new email account. And say that it's the accounts. I could choose that is the default email account as well for me. So whenever I send an email out of the system, it's not going to send it from me. It's going to send it from the accounts at mhunts.com. And so I could have one for accounts receivable, one for accounts payable, one for orders, one for account management, all the different email accounts that you might want to have in there. And then you might want to assign those to different activities and tasks and choose one as being the default. The important thing is it will use your Outlook security. So I'm not actually a member of the accounts team and I don't have access to that mailbox. So if I assigned that sales invoices were sent from accounts at mhunts.com, I would be prevented from sending sales invoices because I do not have access or permissions to use that mailbox. I could send a mailbox and change the account it was being sent from to my own, but I wouldn't be able to send on behalf of somebody else in the organization or a team in the organization that I'm not a part of. So having set up a couple of emails, I'll just go into the email scenario assignment. Just wait for it to catch up with me. There we go. And in here, I've got the 2 email accounts that I've got set up. So I've got my current one, which is the default for anything where there's no scenario created. Sorry, I just took a sip of drink there. And I'll go into the accounts team and I'll assign a scenario. So in there, I might want to say that I would like sales invoices to go from the accounts team. So now anytime somebody prints a sales invoice, it will automatically use the accounts email address rather than the individual who's sending the email, the individual who's sending the email's email address. Whenever you send emails from the system, so just now I sent out a sales invoice. You can go and view those in the email outbox. Sorry, in the sent emails. So in here, you can see that just now I sent out a sales invoice. If I want to see what was in that message, then I can click into it and have a look. So, hi Susan, here's the invoice, etc. I can see the attachment. I've got an option here to edit and resend it, or just resend it as it was. So if Susan tells me she didn't get it, I can just come straight into the outbox and send it again. Or if I choose to edit and send it, then I can just put in here and resend it that way. Now you see at the top, I got the option to send it, but it is telling me it saved my changes as Business Central does. It saves as we go along. So if I just back out of here, I get an option. Do I want to keep this as a draft? It's currently unsent, or have I changed my mind? I don't want to keep that. So I'll keep it as a draft just for a second. And I can see those in my outbox. So if I go into my email outbox, sorry about that, my sound dropped out for a second. So in my email outbox here, we can see that the message I've got is saved as draft. Doesn't have any error messages, but if it was an error like the email address I was sending to was incomplete or invalid or something like that, you'd see the error messages with it. This one's just as a draft rather than a failure. And so I can go into that, I can select it from here and I can send it, or I can open it, edit it, and send it from within the email itself. Or I can just say, I'm done with that one. Actually, she's found the email. I don't need to resend it, and I can discard that one. Did we get any questions on the email side come through, Matt?
No questions.
All right, moving on. So the next thing we're going to have a look at is the dimension corrections. So if somebody posts a transaction and they forget to put dimensions on it, or they use the wrong dimensions. Let's say you've got some defaults set up and somebody forgets to change it from the default to what it should have been. The dimension corrections feature allows you to go in and make corrections against general ledger transactions. So it doesn't have to be a transaction that originated in the general ledger. It could be something that comes from sales, purchase, job costing, inventory, but the corrections can only be made at a general ledger level. So if you looked at the original sales transaction that you corrected, the sales transaction would show the dimensions that you posted on it. And then in the general ledger, you'd see what had been corrected. When you're doing the corrections, you can run it for a single transaction, or you can run it for many transactions all at once. So we'll go in and we'll have a look at that. Right, so I'll start by going and have a look at general ledger entries. And in here, I can see a whole bunch of transactions. I can use my normal filter options to find the ones that have been misposted. But if I just jump down here to some of these sales transactions, now I'm using the Kronos company. It doesn't have a lot of dimension information in here, but I can pick out a line by highlighting it, or I can go to the select more option. And then under the entries, I can choose to correct the dimensions. So in the direct dimension correction window, I can put a reason in for why I'm doing the dimension correction. And then I can choose what it is that I would like to correct. So I can come in here and I can change that, say that I want to change the department. And on all of the transactions that I've selected, I would like to replace the dimension value of nothing with the new dimension value of sales. So it's showing me here that it's going to add the sales dimension to the transactions that I've selected because there's currently no dimension on any of those transactions. I've got a validate option that will run through and just check that everything I've selected is okay. So if you've got any dimension restrictions to say that you can only use certain dimensions on certain GL codes, it's going to check and make sure all of that is being obeyed and gives you a chance to review that before you run it. And then when I click on run, it has an option here for you to go through and schedule this. So you can schedule it out of hours and allow it to run. So you see here it's saying to schedule it for 10 p.m. this evening and to allow it to run for 12 hours. Now for 4 transactions, that's a bit excessive. But if I had decided to restructure my organization and my sales team was now being split into multiple teams, and I wanted to reanalyze a lot of transactions into the new split, or I was merging or doing something like that, and I actually wanted to change the dimensions across all of the transactions that had occurred within, say, the last 2 years, then you can imagine that's going to be quite a lengthy process, and having that as an option to be scheduled is a good idea. For 4 transactions that were mistakenly posted without having sales on them, I can just run that right away. All right, so if we have a look at invoice numbers 190 through to 185 here, I'm not sure what order I was in, posting date order, 190 through 185. If I refresh the screen, you can see in here we've now got sales as the department code in there. So if somebody does make a mistake, post something to the wrong place, you don't have to go through the process of journaling out, journaling back in again. You can come in and you can assign the dimensions via the correct dimensions in the general ledger. I'm going to just pause for a second, Matt, give you a chance to let me know those questions, and I'm going to move on instead of keep asking.
You're doing a first class job there. So far, it's clear as a bell. Lovely. No questions though.
So next one is allowed dimension values. So in a lot of cases, people have got set up in their system default dimensions. So against a customer, you might have that this customer is a large customer if you've got customer groupings. And this customer is this type of customer. So this customer is a retail customer, this customer is a wholesale customer, this customer is in this geographical region, this one is somewhere else. And those are things that you've been able to do for a long time. Now we've got the option of being able to have more than one allowed value. So let's say we've got a customer that has multiple locations or deals with multiple areas. On a transaction, I might want to be able to say, okay, well, now we're using the area dimension and I'm shipping to the Northwest. But this customer's also got sites in the Midlands. And so I need to be able to choose on a transaction whether I'm doing the analysis to the Northwest or if I'm doing analysis to the Midlands. In my system, I've got analysis of small, medium, large type businesses. So I'm going to use the example of a customer has got multiple sites, some of which we classify as large, some of which we classify as small. And so I want to be able to set on the customer that I can choose large, I can choose small, I can't choose medium because they don't have any medium size operations. They just have the two that I'm going to filter in. So I want to allow the user to choose one, but I don't want them, but I want to guide them into choosing one that's correct. The dimension values can be applied to GL accounts. It can be applied to customers, vendors, items, and jobs. So I'll use a customer as the example of how to do it. So if I pick up the Adatum Corporation and open up their record, click on the customer and go into dimensions. So if I want to say that this customer is part of the customer group and say that we're going to have that the code is mandatory, anything that goes through this customer has to have a customer group assigned to it. Previously, I could have gone in and I could have said that they were a large customer. And so that would be the option that I'd be allowed to choose. That this customer is a large customer. It will default in. And in fact, I could just say that it's that code. But if there was something where we could choose more than one, I couldn't put a default in. And so it was just left open that somebody could select anything, but they had to select something. With the allowed values option, I can click over onto the allowed values and it pops out this separate window, shows me all of the values that are in here, and I can choose that I don't want to allow medium for this customer. So I'm allowed to have large, I'm allowed to have small, I'm not allowed to have medium. It uses the same kind of language that we use in the filters. So where we've got a large or small, then you've got the little pipe character in there to indicate that it's one or the other. If I chose to use not large, but medium and small, then you'd see it uses the ... to anything from medium to small to show that we can have anything within that range. I'm going to drop that out because otherwise I'll come and do a demonstration later and be told that I don't have a dimension assigned. For most of the records, it's in the same place. So you see under the customer, it was under the submenu of customer. If I just pop into purchasing and have a look at vendors and open up Fabricam, same place under the vendor menu, you get to dimensions. And in there, you've got your allowed values. The only one that is slightly different is if you're working with inventory. You get to it under more options, related, and then under the item menu there, you can get into your dimensions and set your values. So there is an item menu here, but that doesn't give you your dimensions. You need to go under the more actions, related, and items to get to that one. And then you can fill them in.
No more questions on that either, David. So
Good stuff. I'm assuming it's because I've explaining it all really clearly and not that everyone's falling asleep.
exactly the reason.
Okay, so the next thing is having a look at the Teams app for Business Central. Sorry, the Business Central app for Teams even. So with Teams becoming more and more integrated into businesses, especially with everyone becoming a lot more accustomed to remote working, Teams has become a hub for where a lot of things happen. And so things like people have become used to sharing their documents in Teams and sharing Power BI reports in Teams. Now we can use the Business Central app for Teams to look up information, look up contacts, and share links of data from within Business Central. Now, I've got Teams off because I don't want to be seeing messages ping up while we're demonstrating. So this one's kind of an on-rails demonstration. I'm just showing you some screenshots of things coming through. The first thing within Teams itself, you'd go to the apps, you'd search the app area of Teams and just add in the Business Central app. Once you've added it in, it'll ask you to sign in. And then within the Business Central app itself, if you're operating with more than one company, you just need to choose what company you want to be currently working in. And that's just in the settings menu within the app. If you want to switch company, you can do anytime and just go back to settings and change the company that you're working with. But the app itself, kind of beyond that, it becomes invisible. When you're searching at the top, so I could be searching for something and I could say that I want to search, and one of the choices that it's going to give me by default with the Business Central app loaded is at Business Central. So if I choose the at Business Central option, that it just by clicking at it or typing that in, then I can search within Business Central. So if I type in tray, as you can see there, it's using the Business Central typo rules. So it's saying, well, maybe you misspelled or and you wanted Helen Ray, who's within Tray Research. She's a contact within Tray Research. Or maybe you want Tray Research itself as the customer. So I can select Tray Research as the customer information that I was looking for. And that's going to pop up a contact card. Now you can see there's a little copy button here, so I can then click on that and I can copy it into any conversation in Teams. It's got a details where I can open up a little details pop out, or I can click the pop out, which is just going to launch Business Central and take me to that customer's record. But if I was to go ahead and click on the details button, it's going to stay within Teams and it's going to pop up a Business Central app window within Teams with the customer card on it, with the information panel, with the navigate, with the reports, with all the processes, even with the edit options. So if I needed to update their telephone number or update their contact information, I'd be able to do that all within Teams. The next thing is if you take a Business Central page, so I've taken the full hyperlink here of this product, and I've copied that into a Teams chat window and pasted that in. If you give it just a second, Business Central app will recognize that that's a Business Central URL you've copied in, and it will add to the message a Business Central window with the details of the item or the card that you selected. So that could have been a customer, it could be an item, it could be a job, but it's recognized and it's just pasting in the information here. And it's showing me the same things where I've got a details pop out, so it can open a window within Business Central, or I've got the pop out button, which will take me into Business Central itself and have a look at it.
No questions, although,
Okay.
yeah, although I was impressed with it.
Good. I'm not going to do a demonstration on the bank rec side because it's quite small, and setting up a bank rec and doing a bank rec means that you've got to watch through me putting in a statement and a whole bunch of other details. That was just to point out a couple of small changes. I didn't think this one was going to be necessary. So they've added a couple of features from the customer requests. So if anybody's used the requests part for anywhere in Business Central where you think, I just think it should do this. Quite often Microsoft will take their leads of where they want to go from those suggestions. And so one of the things that people said is, I want to be able to run a report to see what my bank rec was after I posted it, not before. I want to have that thing that I can show my auditors to say, here's the bank rec I did. And so they have added in a after posting report called bank account statements. So if you do a search for bank account statements, you'll get the report option for that one. I'm going in this in reverse order. So the first one I've got in the list there is you can cancel a bank reconciliation that has been posted. So if you go to have a look at a bank reconciliation, you can choose to cancel all or part of it. You can also manually change the statement number in the bank recs window now. So if you were redoing a reconciliation and you were redoing reconciliation number 85, then once you've cancelled reconciliation 85, you can go ahead and redo it as 85 and not miss any gaps in the numbers. And that's actually a mistake. That was from the previous slide. My apologies there. Create links to cards and edit records is from the Teams app. So they're the pieces that they've added into the bank reconciliation there. You've got cancel a bank rec, change the statement numbers, and after posting, you've now got a bank account statements report showing you your previous reconciliations.
No questions on that, David.
So it's a handful of things on here that I've all grouped together onto one slide because there wasn't much to write about them and they're better shown rather than talked about. So we've got in here the journal features, being able to save journals and copy journals that have been previously used. And then we've also got our background posting options. So I'm going to go in and show you what I mean on those. If anybody has been previously working with Business Central and done something like worked with multi-currency, you'll know that in the general ledger, you have your general ledger entries that have been created, and that will show you all the entries at kind of a trial balance level. So we've got all the transactions that came through here. I've got this account, I had this transaction, which updated it by this value on this date. But that's not necessarily what happened when you put the journal in. So when I go to process a general journal, I might choose that I want to put the journal in with a balancing account. So I might choose that I'm going to use account number, and rather than do it as a two-line journal, I'm going to balance it off to another account. Don't look at the accounts, I'm picking them at random. And so I might do it as a one-liner like that. I might have it on multi-lines. I might have it with distributions in there. I might have it with currency. But all of that information that's at line level is lost when it's posted. It creates the general ledger entries, which is what was created from the journal, but it doesn't keep any of it. So there's a new feature that has been added in of this copy to posted journals. And there's now a new table that keeps the journal information as it was when you posted it. So it still posts through to the general ledger entries, and nothing has changed in how you do your reporting and how it stores the data for financial purposes. But you have got that, how did I enter this? Was it a currency transaction? What was put in? Was it using an offset? Was it, how was the information created in the first place? By choosing to copy the journal itself to the posted journals table. So like you've got on your sales, when you post a sales invoice, it updates the GL, but it copies the sales invoice to the posted sales invoices. On the vendors, when you post a vendor transaction, it will update the general ledger entries, but it will also keep a copy of it. So we've got that same functionality now added to journals itself, where we can keep a copy of the original journal in an archive table, and we can use that for referencing back and also for copying from. So in my accruals journal here, if I come in here and I create an accrual for some rent expense, it's automatically offsetting to my accruals account. And this batch I have got set up to copy to my posted journals. So I'm just going to go in here and choose to post that. Now, if I do a search for posted journals, I can see the transactions that I've put into the system. So you can see the rent expense journal I posted just now for $450, and drilling into that, I can see everything about that transaction. I can go in and have a look at it, how it was processed, and I can also copy it. So I can choose to select multiple lines here to copy, or I can choose to copy the entire journal. And when I copy it, it's choosing what template do I want to use, what batch do you want me to put the copy into, what do you want to use as your new posting date. So I might be doing my accruals from 1 month to the next. So in this one, I'm going to use the July date. Do I want to replace a document number? So I didn't fill in a document number, but I could be using a new. Do I want to reverse it? So bring all the values in, but with the reverse sign. But I'll copy the journal and open the journal that is created. And so aside from giving it a 1st of July date, everything else has been copied through as it was before. So I can go in and I can adjust the figures, and I can choose to post that. Okay, so the bits that we've just been through there was storing journals in their original format. So you've got the GL entries as well as the original journal by marking on that checkbox on the batches, and using that saved information to copy previously entered journals. The next thing that was on that thing was background posting and setting up background posting routines. So depending on the kind of business that you're running and the kind of transactions you have coming through, you might want to set up some background posting. So you might want to just say that I don't want the users to sit there while anything posts, because we post complicated transactions with 200 lines on them and they take 15 seconds to post. I want this person to be onto the next transaction. I don't want them to sit there waiting those 15 seconds for that transaction to post. And so we can go into the ledger setup and we can just turn on background posting for those. So I'm going to go and do the demonstration in sales. So within the sales and receivables setup window, there's a section here for background posting. And I can say that I would like to post this with a job queue. So rather than when somebody hits the post, it doing the process in the foreground and doing its thing, it's just going to queue it, and that person will go straight on to the next thing that they're working on. Now, if it's something like an invoice, you might want to send that invoice out to your customer, and you have to post your invoices before you can print them. So if we're doing this via a queue, we might want to say that when we post it, we want to print it. So when the queue does its job, we're going to print it. Now, whether that printing means send by email to the customer as their preferred choice or print to a designated printer, then we're going to get those two options on there. You've also got the notify on success, so it can pop up a message letting you know it's done, or if you leave that off, then it's just happening and doesn't interrupt what the user's doing. We can just go and have a look at the job queues and check that everything's cleared out of there and there's no errors in it as part of a separate process. So that's on a one-by-one transaction basis. The other thing that you can do is deal with a situation where, let's say you're in an organization that imports sales transactions from a third-party system. So you may have, say, a website with an e-commerce system on there that's taking sales orders and then integrating them into Business Central. And so a couple of times during the day, you're receiving a couple of hundred sales invoices that have all been processed, paid, shipping information's been sent to whoever handles your shipping, and all of that's taken care of, but you need to record the financial transactions within Business Central. So rather than having the system, having somebody go through the system and post all of these transactions, we can turn on background posting and have a look at setting up the system to automatically post those invoices for us. So I'm going to go and have a look at the job queue entries. I'm really sorry, that's the second time my headset's shut off. It's a wireless headset, and I think if it doesn't detect any sound for a long time, it thinks it's inactive. And because I'm presenting and doing all the talking, it's just thinking that you've just taken it up and forgotten about it. And so it keeps turning itself off. So I do apologize for that. All right, so in here, if I wanted to set up that I wanted to post all of the sales invoices several times a day, I might want to go in and create a routine for that. So I'm going to click on new. It is actually a report. So we've got options here of reports or code unit, but the report that I'm going to be running is my sales invoices, which is 297. And then I just go in here and I select how I want to run this. So I can say that I want to start this at 4 a.m. and post all of the transactions every day at 4 a.m. Oh, start date. I can choose that it's going to run a report as part of it. I can choose that it's going to process or it's going to send out the PDF documents or whichever format you want. And then you can choose how frequently it's going to run. So I can say it's going to run on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 4 a.m. And then with that on, you see currently that is on hold. If I wanted to make that active, so it would start posting my sales invoices every day, every weekday at 4 a.m. Then under the process here, we just set that ready. And then we'll see in the list here that I've got batch post sales invoices ready to run. And I'm just going to turn that off. And that will automatically at 4 a.m. run my sales invoice posting for me. Okay, The last one on the list is our recurring journals by dimensions. So this is a kind of a special scenario kind of thing. So I'm going to give you an example of when you might use this. So you might have set up in your system dimensions of department and sub-department. So or office and department or something like that. I'm going to use the office and department example because it works out well for this kind of setup. So let's say Enhance, we've got offices in the Northwest and we've got offices in Ireland. And within those offices, we've got various people in the different departments. We've got people in support and in account management and in finance and on the exec team, etc., etc. So I might have certain costs like the light and heat and building costs and other things that happen in the building as part of the building cost that I want to redistribute to those teams. And I've decided I'm going to do it based on the number of people in the team. So I'd say that 10% of the office is support staff and 10% is account management. I may want to do that split based on that. For people processing the transactions through the month, instead of telling them that I want them to split all of the costs in the month between those teams based on those percentages, I can tell them that when you get something like phone charges or light and heat or rent or all those other costs that relate to the building, I would like you just to post them to the Dublin office or the Manchester office. Don't worry about the teams. We'll handle teams at the end of the month. So during the month, people are putting their entries in and they're posting them just to the office. They're not putting any teams on them. We get to month end and a handful of entries have gone in to those offices that now need to be redistributed out to the teams within those offices based on the percentages that I've set up. So this is where this recurring journal split by dimensions can be used, and you can set this up as something to do your split for you. So I'm going to go into recurring general journal and delete that one. And so on the general journals, we've got a couple of new options here. Clear down the balance on an account by dimension, or clear down the balance by dimension as a reversing journal. So if I'm going to be doing the redistribution of costs based on dimension, I wouldn't have that reversing. I would just have that as a straightforward posting. Choose my frequency, so I'll have it going every month. Choose my posting day, I'll have it on the 30th. And I'll choose to take what's in the rent account and wait for it to come up with a suggestion of which one's a rent. I don't need to put anything in against the amounts because it's a balanced clear down. I'm just going to be clearing that down from one account to another. And I'm going to go into the line here, and I can choose to use dimension filters to say I want to clear everything that's within, in this case, I'll do it by department. But let's say that this was my office. So I want to clear everything that's in the been posted to the Manchester office. I'm going to choose department sales. And then I'm going to reallocate all the rent entries that have been posted to the Department of Sales to the rent account. To department sales. But now I'm going to put in my teams within, so If I was using the example that I've been talking through, instead of department, I'd be using the Manchester office, and instead of customer group, I'd be using my departments. So I'd be saying I'm going to allocate some to support, some to account management, some to exec, some to finance. So I'd go through and I'd set here, I'm just going to split it between my large, medium and small. So with my 3 lines in there, I can either choose to split it based on quantity or on a percentage or on a value. So the example I'm talking about redistributing it between the teams, I'm going to do it based on a percentage and say that whatever was posted to the sales department during the month is now going to be redistributed to large, medium and small based on a 25, 30 and 45% allocation. All right, so just as a reminder, put in the line detailing the account that you want to allocate out. Use the line dimension filter to choose which of the, it's bothering me that's not in capitals, OCD overload. Choose which of the departments you want to reallocate. So I only want things that were posted to sales department to be reallocated with the dimension filter. And then on the allocations, I can say anything that was posted to the sales team is now going to be redistributed between large, medium, and small customer groups based on a 25, 30, and 45% split.
And you'll be pleased to hear, David, you haven't got any more questions. Okay, is that all right, David? Finished?
Yeah, my sound dropped again. I'm so sorry. I've never had that happen before, and it's dropped like 3 times in this session. I'm really sorry about that. But yes, sorry. Were there any questions that came out of that?
No, we haven't got any questions. But obviously, if you are an existing Enhanced customer, you'll have an account manager. So if you do think of any questions subsequently, or if you've seen any of the features that David has shown, I particularly like the Teams interface, I have to say. If there's any questions on any aspects of those, please feel free to contact your account manager. If you're a new customer to us, or if you're currently with another partner and you've got some questions, you can always contact us at sayhello@enhance.com. Just to go back to what I said at the start, we're running these sessions every month. We've got 2 or 3 more this month. Some of them are around our products. So this is products we've actually developed to try and make life easier, like purchase expense management. Some of them are around the Microsoft Power Platform product, like Power BI, which we're proficient in. So Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI. And that's the Power BI is obviously a reporting tool. Some of them are very much industry focused. So we've got a number of sessions there on our not-for-profit products, bronze, silver, and gold, which is out towards September, October, which might sound like a long time away, but as we all know, it will soon be Christmas. So yeah, please feel free to register them or register for any of them at enhance.com/events, and we look forward to seeing you on a future event. Can you just roll over onto the next slide for me, please, David? That's brilliant. But as I say, please feel free to contact your account manager if you've got any questions on anything you've seen today. We have recorded the session, and that will be available after the session should you want to share it with a colleague so that they can take a look at some of the features. But lots of other resources at www.enhance.com. Thanks for attending. It's been an absolute pleasure. You did a first-class job there, David. And I hope to see you or speak to you again in a future event. Thank you very much for attending. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.